How's everyone doing today? Thank you for tuning into the first podcast of Pat Sports Talk. We got a great show today. I'm excited you're coming in. So, without further ado, let's get to know our guest. Let's bring him in. Everyone welcome Connor Zaya.
And here he is, America's newest rock and roll sensation, the California Kid, Richie
Mr. Zaya, great to see you. It's been a pleasure. All right, so today we're talking college football, specifically traditions. Starting off, so every year 4 teams make the college football playoff. Those are your top 4. They're going to play for the national championship. If you're going, forget all the skill about football and everything. If you're going just on the tradition, it could be the worst team in the country. Give me your top 4. Let's hear.
So my first question would be, are we talking just regular traditions, game day traditions, anything?
Yeah, it can be anything.
Any sort of tradition?
Yep.
So I'm going to kind of go off the cuff. I'm going to say my number 4, so my lowest ranked one, I'm going to say the Army-Navy game, which, as you know, when they do the Army-Navy game, it's obviously a spectacle, no matter how bad the football is. One of the big traditions that I love from that is when the students come, as they call it, marching in. So students will come into the stadium, big procession, go into their seats, and I think that's one of the bigger ones. Obviously not the best football, but I think it sneaks in my top 4.
So who do you got? Is it Go Army beat Navy or Go Navy beat Army this year?
I always like to see a good football game, but I think I lean more towards Go Army beat Navy.
All right, and
But big support of the military.
For the game, you're going to take the over or under 9.5?
Oh, I'm going to take the much under. I think it's going to be a barn burner this year, as it usually is.
All right, so who's number 3?
So number 3 is a little bit more of a known, easy one. I'm going to go with the Clemson Tigers Howard Rock.
Okay.
I think that's a great tradition. Game day tradition, obviously. I think it's one of the coolest entrances in football. Something they've been doing for a while. I think them charging down the hill and jumping down the hill, which I think it makes me nervous sometimes someone's going to get injured.
Yeah.
But I do like the thought of that. I think it's cool. I don't know what the story behind it is, but I think that's very intimidating for the Tigers coming down the hill. So that would be my number 3.
Now let me ask you, have you ever been to Clemson?
I actually have been to Clemson a few times. Never been there for a game day, but I have seen Howard's Rock. I have seen the hill. And their stadium is cool because it just kind of goes down into everything.
So as someone who's never been, how big is Howard's Rock? I've seen it on TV. It's a little rock, but did they take a piece of it from a bigger rock because they couldn't bring in a massive boulder or something, or is just a piece of rock that's there?
It's only about this big, from what I remember. So it's not an intimidating rock. I think the overall intimidation factor of it is just them coming charging down the hill as the band's playing. But that would definitely for sure be
so that's number 3.
Obviously one of the better football teams that'll probably make the playoff regardless.
Yeah.
That would be my number 3.
Okay.
So if we're talking number 2, I would say kind of biased, but I think that Georgia has a pretty good atmosphere in general as a tradition.
And now what's that?
I think their entrance itself, when they call the Junkyard Dogs, is good. But I'm touching more on what they call Light Up Sanford.
Okay.
Basically, they shut the lights off going into the 4th quarter. Everyone puts their 4s up. They put their cell phones up and they light up Sanford. So it looks like the lights are on, but the lights
and now,
are off.
how many people is that roughly? Like, how many does that sit in Sanford?
I believe around 92,000. So it's a pretty sizable stadium.
That's basically bigger than any NFL stadium.
Yeah.
And that's you got every single person there
just
holding their light
phones up. Everyone's yelling, and it's very, very intimidating. Especially when they flash the stadium lights and start the red ring around it. I think that's an untouchable one. Maybe overlooked one.
So is that only number 2 because they can only do that at night? Because I'm thinking day games.
Yeah, so
people are holding up.
So that's why I had it at number 2. I obviously like it. I'm a big SEC supporter. I think that one was not number 1 specifically because during game days, during the day, it's still a cool tradition. They still flash the lights. They still put the red on and all that. Their entrance is still cool, but that's just what.
But if you're thinking if they're gonna have a primetime kickoff, it's probably a night game anyways. Though.
Yeah, for the
so
most
if it's a
part.
day game, they probably don't even. The other team's probably intimidated enough.
Exactly.
Going to Georgia.
It's definitely something that's cool because it travels with them. Even though they may not have the stadium, Sanford Stadium there, they still travel with it. People still do it. Put the 4s up, put the lights on. So it's definitely a cool tradition. I think that was a, big part of it getting number one for me. Or number two for me, I'm
Number
sorry.
two.
But
so what do we got for number one?
so I was torn with number one. So can I give you what I was thinking for number one?
Sure.
So I was split. So I'm between the 12th man at Texas A&M. Just
Okay.
it's not really, I guess, a tradition, but it's overall just an atmosphere. Just that the fans are that crazy. So that was, I had 3 options for number one. That was one of them. Ole Miss, the Grove. I think it's 10 acres, just a tailgate paradise, which I think is a cool tradition. Might maybe overlooked. Not everybody tailgates, so that was up there because I think that's a cool tradition, cool atmosphere. But I settled on it.
Okay.
I got West Virginia, Country Roads. I think
Okay.
Country Roads is one of those things where you say it, people know it. It sounds good coming out of the car speakers, but if you hear it when you're in an atmosphere, everyone stops. Everyone knows the song. Everyone sings along, even if they don't know it. And you can only imagine what it's like.
Now is that the one? Do they all grab
they
each
all
other
rock
and do
back and
this,
forth
but they
and
get
sing.
the alternate thing going on the road?
Yeah. So it looks cool, and it's one of those things too where other schools know about it. Other schools definitely recognize that one. I'm sure it's very intimidating. But there were a few schools that did miss the cut.
Okay.
For example, Auburn, Toomer's Corner. I think Auburn gets a win. They TP Toomer's Corner. That's a big deal. So
Yeah.
that was right outside my top 4. They just missed the cut. The Oklahoma Sooners coming in their big procession. That's intimidating, obviously. Florida State, similar. They have the Indian coming in on the horse, put the spike into the ground. I think that's a cool one. And then Mississippi State with the cowbells. Although I hate the sound of a cowbell,
Yep.
it's very, very intimidating, especially
I'm
when the
sure
whole
the other
stadium's
team
doing it.
hates it a lot more.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. It's one of those things where that can just get on you as a team. It can really get you when you're in Starkville for sure.
Gotcha. So now if we're playing this out,
Mm-hmm.
I know you've already ranked them. So,
Mm-hmm.
but if these teams were to play a simulated game or something, do you get the Army Navy march? Is there any way they can upset Country Roads, or is Country Roads just gonna roll them?
So
Or is it a good game?
I think it's tighter than people would expect. I think
Okay.
the overall fact that Army Navy was impressive is because it's the military. It's hard to dislike
Yeah.
traditions like that. Obviously, those schools are both very rooted in tradition. That's a game that happens every year. But I think, like I said, not many people knew about that one. I'm sure a lot of people were surprised
Yeah.
with that pick. So that's why I think Country Roads takes it. I think Country
Makes
Roads
sense.
beats Army, but I think, or Army and Navy, I guess, in a football game, but I think it's closer than people would assume it would be.
Gotcha. So now 2 versus 3. We got the favorite in Howard's Rock at Clemson.
Mhm.
Are they gonna pull out, or
So-
are they getting upset?
I think they're gonna lose to light up Sanford solely because Howard's Rock. I think it loses atmosphere when you're not running down the hill.
Okay.
I think you can move, you can have a Howard's Rock or something you're gonna touch before you go into the stadium, but it's gonna lose the atmosphere of them running down the hill, which
This-
obviously is tough.
This is kind of an interesting one because if this were to be a game that got played, it would be at a neutral site.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you wouldn't be able to have the lights and you wouldn't be able to have the hill.
I would agree with that.
So-
And that's why I think
Which
it's
makes
an
it
interesting
unique
matchup.
2
The
versus
thing,
3.
the reason that's getting me with the Georgia is the fact that people still do it when they travel. It's easy
Yeah.
to just pull your phone out. Everyone does the force, which is a pretty big football tradition anyway. But just the atmosphere of them running down the hill, I think, took away from it. I still think you get enough Georgia fans in the stadium, it still makes them light.
Makes
It's
sense.
still kind of a big deal.
Now for your national championship, is there going to be enough people from Georgia that are going to get to Morgantown, West Virginia, and try and quiet down the Country Roads a little bit, or
I
West Virginia?
I think that
Getting
West
the ring.
Virginia takes the cake in this one. I think that is the best tradition in college football. Solely, like I said, what the big factor is the fact that everybody knows it. You hear Country Roads, you sing it whether you're a WVU fan or not, unless you hate WVU, which is completely understandable. But it's one of those things where even people sing it just because, and they may not know the tradition, but I feel like it's hard not to know the tradition, even if you know anything about college football, which is a
Exactly.
big part of it.
I'll run down mine real quick. So at number 4, I got Toomer's Corner at Auburn.
That's a good
Uh,
one, for sure.
Just because of the magnitude of students that go to it when they win a game,
Absolutely.
it's not every week, but if they win the Iron Bowl or something at home, just crazy. I mean,
Well, you heard this story
Yeah.
recently, or not recently, but within the last 10 years, that guy poisoned him, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, that crazy Alabama fan poisoned the trees on Toomer's Corner, which obviously was a big hit to them. So
Yep.
you can tell the magnitude of that. I like that. Number 4, I like that.
Number 3,
Okay.
I'm gonna go Enter Sandman from Virginia Tech.
I also had that on my list.
It's just tough because I feel like Virginia Tech's just always so disappointing. Like they do the Enter Sandman thing, and then they just, that's like the highlight of the
That's
fan,
what I was gonna say.
highlight of the game for the fans.
That's true. That's true.
They're not going to win, but I've never seen it in person, but it's definitely one of those bucket list things.
I was gonna say.
They get loud and they make the place shake, and it's definitely a cool entrance.
That's for sure.
Is it better than when Mariano Rivera comes in, or no?
To me, no. Like I said, it's cool because
Baseball
of the
guy,
atmosphere. Exactly. I think I'm a little biased, but to have Rivera coming in, everything's focused on him. He's walking in, and you almost feel like you're walking to your death, basically.
And for number 2, as much as I hate Alabama, I do like the Dixieland Delight. And more so just because of the answers they got. Like
I agree.
It's a classic song, but they got their own spin on it. It's not like
And people know it too.
Yeah, people know
People
it.
definitely know.
And if you go anywhere else, like people always sing the Alabama. Like it's
Absolutely.
made us rhyme.
I definitely agree with that. And that
they-
was also one that
They took a good song and then they still kind of made it their own. So they got like the.
There's a lot of
festival
controversy in there too recently too, which makes it almost more fun.
I didn't hear about that one.
Yeah, they stopped playing it because they didn't like people yelling all that stuff.
Oh, really?
They tried to stop playing it. I believe it's back because they want students to go.
Kind of like the LSU.
Yeah, when they played neck at
When they
LSU.
played neck,
yeah,
yep.
yeah, that was again on my list too. But again, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's hard to do it when it gets so much scrutiny and all that.
Yeah.
What about your number 1? What do you got?
This one I think is clearing away. I got the interlude at Coastal
At
Carolina.
Coastal Carolina. Wow.
Um,
Okay. Very very overlooked one.
Yep.
I like that.
Kind of not a coastal thing though. It's a Big South.
Really the conference?
Yep.
Okay.
So that's what all the schools in the Big South used to do it. And Coastal has since broken off from the Big South, but they still do it in the Sun Belt. So they're the only team in the Sun Belt.
It is cool when the stadium's rocking when everyone's there.
Yeah.
I would definitely say that's a good tradition.
So for my first game, I do have them getting upset. I have Coastal getting upset. I think it's the best tradition, but I don't think there'd
It's
be
close
enough
to
people
home,
doing
though.
it.
Close to
It's
home.
close to home, but I think if you got a whole stadium doing the interlude,
Game over.
no one's ever going to beat them. But they can't get the people doing it. So I got number 4, Toomer's Corner,
I agree with
taking
that.
it, and then I
2,
have
3. What do you got?
Virginia Tech taking Bama. So I have 3 versus 4 in my championship.
Okay, I like that.
Um,
So the championship you have Virginia Tech
Virginia Tech and Auburn.
and Auburn. Okay. So Toomer's Corner and Enter Sandman.
And when it comes down to it, I'm going to choose Auburn, number 4, little kind of underdog upset, just because I think Virginia Tech is going to win the first half just because the crowd's going so loud.
Oh yeah.
But I'm going to bring it back to, this wasn't my question, but I'm going to bring it back to about the football, and I think I don't think Virginia Tech's very good, and I think Auburn's going to pull it in the second half and just make it even crazier at Toomer's Corner when they come back and win it.
I think the big thing about that is Virginia Tech starts with the Enter Sandman, but everyone in Auburn's trying to fight to get to Toomer's Corner. That's the thing. It's all about the finish with them. You got to win the game. TP the corner.
Exactly.
That's for sure. Roll them.
All right. Well, that's the end of our podcast. Thanks so much for coming in.
I appreciate it.
We
Thank
enjoyed
for
having you.
me. I'm glad I hope I can help out with my expertise.
And everyone who's listening, if you got any traditions we missed or you think would have topped ours, put it in the comments. And we'll be happy to read them and we'll get maybe a power rankings list back out midweek.
That would be nice.
Thank you for tuning in.